Oh, you want something?
No, I don't need it.
It's 2 p.m., so let's call to order the January meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners. And let's begin by calling the roll.
Chairperson Einhauser, Vice Chairperson Blackman, Commissioner Forte. Commissioner Blackman does plan on joining us. Kinlock, apologies. Commissioner Kinlock does plan on joining us. Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Coleman, and Commissioner Garcia are all absent, so we do not have a quorum at this moment.
Do not have a quorum. Until why don't we move to public comment? And is there anyone who wishes to address the Board of Commissioners today?
Mr. Chair, good afternoon, Brian Peckapaw, Public Affairs. Okay. All right, let me restart. Good afternoon, Brian Peckapaw, Public Affairs Director for Detroit Water and Sewage Department. I'll read the instructions for public comment. To make a comment, if you are in person, and there are some members of the community in person, Mr. Chair, please sign the sign-in sheet. Your name will be called and you can proceed to the microphone. If you are online, please raise your hand by using the raise hand icon on your desktop or mobile device. If you are calling into the meeting by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. If you are online using the Zoom app or the phone, after your name is called, you will get permission to unmute. In order to begin speaking, you will have to unmute yourself. To do so, press the unmute button, which is the microphone icon if you're online or on the app, or *6 if you are calling in by phone. If you will have a limit of 3 minutes to make a comment. There will be a timer indicating your remaining time on the screen. If you're online to make a comment, we kindly request you fill out the comment card link that's located in the chat. Please do so we can follow up with you appropriately. You will only be called upon once. Once the chair closes public comment, there will be no other comments from the public and all attendees will remain muted for the duration of the meeting. On-site comments will go first, followed by online and on the phone. Thank you for your attention.
All right, and has anyone signed up to talk to us? Thank you. All right, let's begin with Gaston Nash III. Mr. Nash, how are you? Come on down.
Good, thank you. Good afternoon. Hey, I wanted to ask the board for help with a bill that I received on a house that I own across the street from me. I made the mistake of not setting my water bill up when I first purchased the house. And the bill that I received was extremely high when I did set up my water account. I mean, I do understand that I should have set up the bill as soon as I bought the house now. But I think the amount on there is kind of excessive, and I'm just wondering, is there any way to be able to work with anybody to you know, get it changed, perhaps, and pay what, you know, what is owed for like drainage fees and things like that, but not have to pay the amount that's on top of that.
Chair, can I see Kim back there? We'll have her help him. I just want to ask you the question. How'd you buy the house? Through a land contract?
This is through the Detroit Land Bank. I actually purchased multiple homes in a project through the Detroit Land Bank. So I'll probably need that same help on at least 2 other houses as well.
We've got to do some research on the bills and the properties that came out of the land bank. Once, as the board knows, before the houses ever go into the land bank, the water bill gets wiped out in court before it can even be transferred to the land bank to be sold. So somehow between the time that you purchased it and the land bank took control of it, it generated these new bills. So we've got to do some research. If you give her the addresses and make sure she has your contact number, we'll get back with you in a couple of days and let you know how we might be able to help you.
Thank you.
But in the future, please, when you buy a house from the land bank, understand what the water bill is so that you can take care of it before you take control of the property.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Let me note for the record that Commissioner Kinlock has arrived. We now have a quorum, but we'll finish the public comment portion of our meeting. So next, I'd like to call on Mr. Nasser Alahan, sorry.
Good afternoon. I have a building in 410 Furtson Street or South Furtson. And also I have a lot next to it. It's all one parcels or many parcels, maybe 5 or 6 parcels. They keep billing me for water bill for the building separately from the lot. And it was under one account, I don't know how to say it. It's like all in one deed. That the lot, the bills is coming $250 a month, and the building is coming around $125. And the building with the meter on it is twice bigger in the lot. So it's $250 for an empty lot. It's grass, dirt, a little bit of pitching on it. Is concrete is to be building, but it's broken. It's not building anymore. And I keep trying to call, reach them, talk to them about it. They told me email. I keep email, and nobody helped me with it, with the water bills for 2 years. Till the water bills coming to over $4,000. So last month or a couple months ago, I make a plan to pay monthly payment, what is way too much for me for an empty lot, plus what I'm paying for the water meter. So I need help.
If I could, so saying that some of the parcels that you're being charged for, are not your parcels?
The parcels, but they charge me for water and storage $250 a month for an empty lot. The building itself twice bigger in a lot. And it got water meter, and it built for it is $125 a month.
I can see a screenshot of the property. What do you have on that empty lot? There appears to be
Rebuilding,
or so on the property.
what is like about 30, 40 years ago, but it's not longer building anymore. It's an empty lot. They parking the cars on it when they need it, otherwise it's empty.
Okay, we have your name and your number. We're gonna have our engineers that do the drainage charge, take a look at the property and see if we can't,
I appreciate it.
and certainly a smaller meter for sure would reduce the cost. So we have the information and we'll get back with you in the next few days to.
Appreciate it.
Palash Devitas? Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, everyone.
He's got all these vehicles.
For the people and for me too, because as we get older, these bills are becoming outrageous, on everybody's property, and including mine, And most of the drain that drains from from the roof, it goes into the city on my property, it goes into the city in the alley, it just sits there, I made quite a few complaints about it, but nobody came out to address it, to do anything about it, So the sun actually, from the sun, then I get charged for it, And this doesn't make no sense, And I don't even know how they even passed this to even charge us for the water that falls from the sky. Understand for the drainage in you use your business or your house, it's okay, but this doesn't make no sense,
All right.
They even passed it.
Is there anything else, sir?
Thank you very much. It's in your hands, but I appreciate if you guys can do everything for other people too, not just me. Because you got 80 years old ladies in city of Detroit that they have to give up their house for the profit. That don't make no sense. Leave their house for the water bill. I don't understand this. We all have, there's grandmas, Have you ever thought about this at all? Can anybody do anything in legislations?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Appreciate it.
And is there anyone else in the room who would like to address the board? Is there anyone online that would like to address the board?
Mr. Chair, we have Cecily McClellan.
Ms. McClellan?
Good afternoon. Happy New Year to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would just like to go on the record stating we, the people of Detroit, have been working statewide in terms of water affordability to support legislation that will bring a statewide legislation for low-income residents. Also, on the federal level, we have been lobbying for the $500 million appropriation for the LIHWAP dollars. And we are supportive of the H2 Up Water Act that is sponsored by Rashida Tlaib and Debbie Dingo. So we are very much engaged and active in terms of legislation. I would just like to bring some issues in terms of the status of the Detroit Lifeline program. We are concerned about the continued clients that are enrolling in the program, but it doesn't appear to be had a capacity to service, and what is happening to those programs. We have observed over the past 9 weeks that Wayne Metro is continuing to interview or enroll residents, probably about 247 a week in Lifeline. And the understanding that we have is that the program has the capacity right now of about 13,000. And to continue based on the funds available for the program, it probably will not be able to exceed somewhere around, I think, 11,000. So we would like to know what is going to happen with the pending applications, the new applications, which are close to 6,000, and also the recertifications that are being done by Wayne Metro, which are like 5,400. Are these clients going to be placed in on a waiting list? Will they be protected on the waiting list? Or are they being referred to the Easy Pay program? These are low-income residents, and this time of the year would be an awful time for anybody to have their water shut off. And for the lack of the ability to pay would just be, a tragedy. Based on our participation in your committee meetings, you have indicated that the Easy Pay program is probably at about a 58% success rate, which means that it's at a 42% of the people are not successful in making it in the Easy Pay program. That becomes another number of people that are eligible or become eligible for shut off. And we would like to avoid at all costs the uh, the shut off practices that were implemented, several years ago. So we would just like to know what is.
Ms. McClellan, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have Norel Hemphill.
All right. Ms. Hemphill, you have the floor.
May I be heard?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Attorney Norel Hemphill with We the People of Detroit. I want to echo what Mama Cecily said. We've been engaged with water affordability at every level of government, the state level, federally, and then here locally. And we have had the pleasure of engaging with DWSD for years now. We know that unaffordable water bills is a major issue right here in Detroit and across the nation. As we've heard, every person who's come in person public for public comment today has talked about an unaffordable water bill. So as we move beyond um, the Lifeline program, we've heard at past meetings you talked about right fitting. The board has talked about right fitting the program based upon the current funding structure. And we know that, there's some parameters and constraints on that that's beyond all of our controls. One of the major funding for a Lifeline program was the LIWAP funds that we got from the federal government. As Mama Cecily said, Ms. McClellan said, we did lobby some years ago and were able to get $500 million appropriation to LIWAP. Now that those funds are gone, what are we going to do with these residents? I think that's one of the concerns. And I just want to echo that over and again, because as we are in a community, we are seeing some residents be very, very, very concerned. Some who were just hearing about Lifeline that were excited to get in it, who applied and are not hearing anything back about their pending applications. Those who were concerned, very concerned again, and recertified or went through the process of recertifying and they haven't heard anything back yet. So what are we doing with those residents? Will they be protected from shutoffs? If so, what would that look like? And for as far as moving them to easy pay, will that mean that they will still have an unaffordable water bill, having that high balance transfer to easy pay and spread over 36 months? So what are we doing for our residents to ensure that Detroiters have continuous access to clean, safe, and affordable water? We know that water is a human right. No person can exist on this planet without access to water. You will surely die. So what are we going to do to people to make sure that we're sustaining their lives, we're not causing another public health crisis with water shutoffs, because nobody wants to see that again. So if you could please let us know so we can help you all tell our residents. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Hemphill. Mr. Brown.
I certainly agree with 90% of what was said. First of all, let me thank the people of Detroit, for their steadfast willingness to work on their own at the federal, state, local level, to work with DWSD at the federal, state, and local level to try to find long-term funding for Lifeline. We appreciate all that they have done, but the fact of the matter is that they were not successful in doing so. And we at DWSD spent tens of thousands of dollars with lobbyists in Washington, in Lansing, at the local level, trying to get legislation passed that would be long-term funding for Lifeline. Senator Chang was not able to get the legislation through. Congresswoman Tlaib has not been able to get the legislation through. And while we appreciate Debbie Dingle working very hard to propose new legislation, it has not gotten through. We haven't received any for Lifeline. And as I indicated the last couple of meetings, we're going to have to right-size the program based on the dollars that we have available. And I've committed that if you were in Lifeline, you will seamlessly be moved into Easy Pay and be protected from a shutoff. The question that was posed is that customer will have an unaffordable bill. That is correct. They will have a higher bill than they would have in Lifeline. But I can't fund a program if we don't have the dollars available. And believe me, we're doing everything that we can to find foundation dollars or any dollars that may be available to fund this program. And while we have several very promising leads, right now, the money we do not have in hand. And so we're in the process of right-sizing the program to fit the number of households that we have dollars available for. Everyone else will have to move into a 3-year payment program. And once additional dollars are secured, so as seamlessly as we moved them into Easy Pay, move them back over to Lifeline. But I can't work outside of the budgeted dollars that we have. I don't know how other to say that than to say we're going to try to accommodate as many people as $11 million will accommodate over the next year until we're successful in finding dollars. And again, we hope that we, the people of Detroit, will continue to work on their own and work with us. And later in the agenda, I'd like them to know that Deb Poshpish is going to give a presentation on the state legislation work that was done by both We the People, many other advocates, as well as DWSD, working with Senator Chang. However, we just fell one vote short. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we have D'Amico Williams.
Mr. Williams, you have the floor.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. D'Amico Williams here from Hydrate Detroit. And to hear this response,
Yeah, I will.
it's a lot, yo. I just don't want us to give up. You know, why can't we all come together instead of working apart? Because if we were working together, we would have had this done. We, the people of Detroit, all the other water organizations, and DWSD, Wayne Metro. Let's come meet at the table. At that big, beautiful table, y'all sitting at right now. Let's come to the table and work together and come back and pull our energies together so that we can campaign. What is this defeatist attitude? Yes, I pulled together a last minute press conference when the quorum failed and tried to get them to do it one last time. That did reach out to Lansing. I've been in conversation with Joe Tate. I've been in conversation with Peter Hertzberg and others to try to get them to go back to the table. They were willing to do it. But 56, 57 people, you can't control them. You can't control the Republican establishment. I don't even know Matt Hall, but I'm willing to talk with him in order to get to him to understand how important this is. I'm willing to campaign. We could have all done it together. But let's not go back towards last year or yesteryear. Let's work on today. Let's stop all this defeatist attitude and come back to the table and work hard to see what we can do to come back again. Gary Brown, you got more money to meet with lobbyists. And also, I know you can get in a meeting with Trump. I know you can find a way to meet with Trump. I know for surely you can find the EPA director and get into him. I mean, what's the problem? You know, we don't have any funding left for what we all try to do. And even before then, we could have avoided the problems that we're dealing with today. Had we, I mean, it's possible. I just don't want to complain, obsess, and drown into drama. And I don't want to fight all over again for an entire year trying to get people help to affordable water. This is a statewide issue. We have to make it a campaign. I mean, I'm pretty sure that all of us in the state are dealing with the same thing. White people want clean water. Black people want affordable water. It all ties together. So let us work together to see what we can do, campaign to our representatives and to the House Speaker and to our governor to get this done. Water affordability should be first and foremost a priority. We all have the collective tools if we come together today or forthcoming and make it happen. That's all I want to say. Thanks for taking my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Williams was the last person.
I'm sorry, say it again, who?
He was the last person.
Was the last person. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing and hearing none, we will close public comment. We will once again call this January 15th meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners to order. We have already called the roll. There were 3 members. Mr. Commissioner Kinlock has joined us, so we now have 4. Let's move to the approval of the agenda, and we're going to amend the agenda under item receipt of correspondence. You have at your place an additional piece of correspondence. It's a letter to Badar Kahil, and we're going to add that to the list of correspondences we're receiving today. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendment I described? And supported. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. That's unanimously adopted. Next, the approval of the minutes of December the 18th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Approval, Mr. Chair.
Supported. Yeah, are there any changes, amendments, or anything else with regard to the minutes other than what is presented to us? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. And that's adopted unanimously. Receipt of correspondence with the attachments that were part of our original handout and the addition of the January 14th letter to Mr. Kahil. What is your pleasure?
Even file, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. And that's adopted unanimously. Item 7, items from the commissioners. Commissioners have any items they'd like to present? All right. Item 8, unfinished business. There is none. Item 9, approval of the consent agenda. Do we have a consent agenda?
Just the one item on page 2.
That because, and partially my fault, there was not a quorum for the Finance Committee at the special meetings last week. But item A is on the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda. Item.
Seconded. Is there a second? Commissioner Forte. Any discussion of this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed? And that is adopted. Yes, Commissioner Kinlock.
Mr. Chair, in as much as we're going to the next item, is that the legislative update? Just, and then after that, I have a subsequent motion. Thank you.
So next, under new business, item A is our legislative update. And Ms. Poshpish, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Deborah Pospech. I'm working on special matters for DWSD. And as you know, the bills to create and fund a statewide water affordability program did not pass in the 2024 legislative session. The stakeholder group worked up to the minute to the final day of session. A December 19th Detroit News article kind of summed up the story of what happened during lame duck. And that article was entitled, "Michigan House Ends Session in Boycotts, Acrimony, and Dead Legislation." So simply stated, the water affordability legislation was caught in the crossfire of a very multi-layered, complicated disagreements among the House Democrats. We worked very hard to secure that very last yes vote from a downriver Democrat in the House who had a very specific concern. So his yes vote wavered by the hour, but at 8 p.m. before the day we were anticipating it would be on the agenda, we had a yes. We also had support from 3 House Republicans after we incorporated some reasonable amendments into the legislation. But the Republicans made it clear they would not be the deciding vote. We had to have all Democrats in line to vote for it first before they would vote yes. So then when the Democratic Party relationships broke down at 11 p.m. on that night, and we would not have a majority the next day for the legislation, we could not prevail. So these were all matters outside our control. There was numerous other pieces of legislation that weren't passed due to this situation. There's been some concern or criticism that the water affordability legislation should have been brought before the bodies sooner. And believe me, we made multiple efforts to do so. That was our goal. There were several Democratic legislators in both the House and the Senate who had concerns about voting in favor of the legislation before the November election and made commitments to do so in the lame duck. Also, there were some legislators who weren't convinced that there was a need in their particular district for a water affordability plan and necessitating a $2 fee. So we utilized the services of public sector consultants, and they did data and maps from around the state, and they showed the need in every county in the state. And we were able to show these legislators, indeed, your county, your district has a need. And we spent many hours educating the legislators one by one. But make no mistake, we're still undeterred. We're determined to continue to advocate for this common sense legislation. The new House Speaker, Matt Hall, expressed a desire to work across the aisle. We'll take him up on that. Representative Whitsett seems to have forged a very good relationship with Speaker Hall, and we'll see if we can make some inroads there. The stakeholder group met on Friday. We've renewed our efforts to talk with legislators, talk with Republicans to see if there's any other amendments that would bring them along and put this back up for vote. We're going to keep working at this, and we're going to keep using facts to guide the discussion. There is the need. The $2 fee can help with that need, and we have the proven results of Lifeline that this statewide plan can work. So we noted from our lobbying efforts that rural Republican legislators were very interested in the water affordability concept, but they have some unique needs in rural communities. So we want to circle around with them and see if any amendments will address their needs. We're also working on a request for a budget appropriation to replenish the funding that was carrying Lifeline along all this time, you know, the luau funding, the prior LIWAP funding. There is a budget surplus in Lansing, which everyone is, you know, got their hands would like a piece of, but we will advocate for some temporary funding that will help us keep more people in Lifeline. So I will pause here for questions about the state level, and then I have a very short federal level update.
Questions for Ms. Poshpish about the lame duck drama?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would just say that I know that our director has been working tirelessly with the legislature to try to get this legislation passed. And so I think we've been kept up to date very well with what he's been trying to do. Unfortunately, we have no control over the internal problems with the legislature, except just to keep trying to work with them and to get them to see the bigger picture and the effect that it has on customers. So, and I know you're doing that, Attorney Poshpish. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Forte.
You know, I think for me, it kind of goes without saying that to even bring forth level of effort and the recommendation and the work that's gone on has taken just a tremendous amount of time and effort. And I just want to commend the team for being on that track. I think to get this close, I know it's got to be deeply disappointing, but I'm also looking at the work that has been done, and I just need to express great appreciation for the work that's been done.
It's been very rewarding to work with such a diverse group of people on this legislation. And like I said, we're not giving up. And you said something I wanted to comment on. Oh, the lobbyists who were working with us on this effort said we should be very proud that it was just this one vote that knocked us off track. To get this far on legislation that's been in the works for over a decade was a win in and of itself. So we won't give up. I'll keep you updated at how it goes with, our efforts with the Republicans. Again, it's common sense legislation. We have LIHEAP for gas and electricity. This is no different.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I want to also recognize the hard work that Ms. Poshpish and the director and our lobbyists took in making sure that this got to the finish line. But we as a community have to continue to be hopeful that this time around folks would act more responsibly. I a long time ago stopped trying to figure out the insanity that goes on in the minds of folks who say they go to Lansing to help people, and then somehow things get off track. I'm hoping that the one person that everyone knows who basically blew this legislation out the water of sort is quite aware that this is all on her shoulders to get this across the finish line. She's playing with the Republicans, and if it works for the benefit of the citizens of the city of Detroit, then do your thing. But if it's all about more gamemanship and foolishness, do not think that you will be coming to the Detroit City Council. So I just want to say that for the record, because this is too important for us to continue to play games and not basically hold folks accountable on something that this entire community and region and state has been trying to get this dire piece of legislation. And we were right there. So thank you again.
Minded what Will Rogers said. I've never been a member of an organized political party. I'm a Democrat. All right, then let's move on to the federal.
So the EPA published just a couple of days ago what's called a needs assessment report. And it's a water affordability needs assessment report to Congress pursuant to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And this was a comprehensive report that looked at several different methods for evaluating the water burden and calculating the funds we would need to have a nationwide water affordability program. No surprise, the need is great around the country. And Estimates are that the nationwide gap between an affordable bill and the actual bill are between 5 billion and almost 9 billion a year. Now, keep in mind, President Biden's appropriation for a water affordability program was 500 million. We're talking close to 9 billion would be needed each year. Also keep in mind that LIHEAP receives a little over 4 billion each year. So the gap between reality and what's needed is still quite huge. Detroit is featured in the case study. They highlighted RAP and Lifeline as commendable programs to address water affordability. We were interviewed for the needs assessment, and many of our recommendations were adopted into the EPA's final recommendations. The EPA estimates that the cost to fund clean water and drinking water projects across the nation over the next 20 years is approximately $1.25 trillion. And Michigan estimates are 18 billion over 20 years for sewer projects and about 1 billion annually for water projects. So water and sewer infrastructure is a very hot topic. And as Director Brown says, it's underground, it's hard to get the attention. You know, it's not shiny new objects, but the need is great across the country for this underground infrastructure. Next step, pursuant to this federal legislation, is the EPA is mandated now over the next 2 years to create a pilot program that will be rolled out to various regions around the country. There will be 8 pilot projects in 5 different categories. And there's a category for large systems like ours and a category for disproportionately burdened systems, which would be ours. Many of our households are disproportionately burdened. So while we in Detroit think it's, a no-brainer, we should receive one of these grants for the pilot project, they also show that there are 10,000 community water systems across the country that have a disproportionate number of households with a high water burden. So we will have competition for those funds. We're not alone, we will apply, we'll see what happens. The EPA estimates that 115 million to 185 million is needed to fund just this small pilot program. But here's the but. Will the Trump administration appropriate the funds? He continued, we would love to apply for the pilot, be a part of the pilot. One of the criteria is that the region applying for the pilot has a proven plan in place. So we're very, we're great on that. But, will the Trump administration appropriate the funds and carry through this mandate in the EPA regulation? So that's my update. Any questions on the federal side?
Would EPA report to under the Trump administration? Has that been decided yet?
Confirmation hearing is tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Ms. Commissioner? Anything else, Ms. Poshpesh?
Nope, and I'll check back in about 90 days or so, or 120 days, give you another update.
Well, thank you very kindly. All right, next we move to item C. Is there a
Chair,
Commissioner Kinlock?
are we under item A, B, and C, those items up under new business?
Business, item B.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Water Commissioners for the City of Detroit Water and Sewage Department authorize the director to approve items B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J, and that the Board of Water Commissioners also authorizes the director to take such other action as may be necessary to accomplish the intent of this vote pursuant to each of the actions stated within those line items.
All right, so you're combining each of the items under new business into a single motion?
Yes, sir.
Um,
Of A, right?
With the exception of A, that was a report.
just an information item. I'm going to ask legal counsel, can we do this? We're spending a lot of money. Now, the record is very clear what these contracts are and what the amounts are. But I guess as a question of parliamentary,
Would be given a report. They still give us a report. I expect the staff to come up and still speak to what those items are. Yes.
so, Ms. Walsh, come on, go down the line and give us a brief description. We're backdooring. And that's okay, as long as it's legal. If you wouldn't mind just going down the list and giving us a brief description of each of the items that are a part of this motion.
Absolutely. There are 9 contracts before you. 7 of the 9 are contract amendments. Those amendments do include either an addition of time, funding, and/or a combination of both. Those 7 amended contracts are warehouse replenishment items. So as everyone is aware, DWSD has had and received an influx of infrastructure dollars over the past few years. And so this will allow us to continue replenishing the warehouse inventory items that the field crews use to complete those repairs. And then we do have 2 new contracts. One is for meter exchanges to support the Itron aging equipment and those meters that need to be exchanged out for accurate billing. And then the other one is a 5-year automotive fleet contract for Mack trucks, which has an annual spend of about $180,000 a year for maintenance, warranty work, repairs, and parts. And so I'll go through the items, just, item number B, C, D, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview so that you understand the nature of all of the contracts before you in the sake of time. So item B is our contract amendment, and it is to add 2 years and $50,000 for an annual spend of $25K. It is to align with the current My Deal cooperative agreement that's already in place, and it is for our electrical parts, lighting, and different things that are used for DWSD facilities. Item number C is an amendment number 2 with EJ USA for gate valve parts, and it is to add an addition of $150,000 approximately in funding with no change to scope of work, terms and conditions, or the contract expiration date. This is just for replenishment of stock. Consecutively, item D is an amendment as well for transitional couplings, adding $160,000 to the contract with no change to scope, terms and conditions, just to continue replenishment of stock through the contract term. Item number E is for various copper parts and piping. We're adding a total of $210,000 to the contract to allow for additional inventory to be delivered during the current term of the contract. The next item is for our water meters, which I gave a brief overview. It's a 2-year contract, a total of $2 million that will be expended over 4 different contracts so that we don't have any interruptions or shortages in those items because those are critical to DWSD. The next item is for an amendment for manhole covers and catch basins. Is adding $80,000 to the contract just for warehouse replenishment items. Those are also critical to DWSD operations. The next item is with Motor City Pipe. It is for brass parts, which we use as water service connections for our mains. We're adding additional funding in the amount of $50,000 to allot for additional inventory to be delivered without an interruption in services. The next one is with Jack Dehaney. It is adding $75,000 to the original contract for various parts for our Vector pieces of equipment and trucks that go out in the field. And the final contract is with Interstate Truck Source for Mack trucks, which is a $900,000 contract in 5 years, which was publicly bidded out for 29 days. We had to extend it for 8 because we did not get any bids. Later to find out the Interstate Truck is a sole distribution, full service company in the Wayne County area to service Mack trucks. And so we have about 30 in the inventory, and of those 30, 8 do require warranty repairs. And so we have to have a certified person to do the warranty repairs and obtain OEM parts to make sure that we don't violate our warranty. And that is the consumption of all the 9 contracts that are on the agenda today.
All right, thank you for that summary. First of all, let me ask commissioners, does anyone wish to remove any individual item from this motion and consider it separately? Okay. Are there any questions or comments by commissioners?
Just a comment, I thought you did an excellent job summarizing exactly what we were looking at. Well done.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none then, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. And are there any opposed? All right, that unanimously passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Welsh. Next, we move to the director's comments and the director's metrics.
Gonna do the message portion of this line item and then allow Deputy Director Sam Smalley to give you the metrics. The Biden administration awards Detroit $346 million to prevent basement flooding. Since 2018, Detroit has experienced an increase of wet weather events that can overwhelm our combined sewer system. With major rainstorms in 2021 and 2023, residents' homes have been impacted. In an effort to prioritize infrastructure resiliency, the Biden administration has awarded the city of Detroit with $346 million in disaster recovery funds to reduce flooding and basement backups. An action plan will be developed following the community meeting and delivered to the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department, that's HUD, for approval before the city programs do the funding of the programs, with Detroit City Council's approval for appropriation and contracting of the work. So let me just say that Mr. Smalley and along with his team, Lisa Wallach specifically, have just done a yeoman's job in identifying shovel-ready projects that we are confident will get through HUD regulations that we're going to have to get passed. Again, the mayor has indicated that DWSD will get the lion's share of this money, approximately $200 million of the 346 is coming to DWSD. We're going to allocate $150 million to reconnecting service lines to the sewer systems in the alley and getting rid of sinkholes. As I've said many times before, the biggest thing that we can do to help basement backup flooding is reconnecting the lateral sewer line that leaves the basement of someone's house, runs out their backyard into the alley, and has fallen off of the sewer. Their basements are flooding even in dry weather. It gets exacerbated during wet weather. We have sent thousands of letters to homeowners. When we're cleaning sewers, we can see that that line has fallen off. It's a private issue that could be anywhere between $15,000 and $30,000 to repair. Less than 1% of Detroiters have been able to make that repair. so their basements are backing up even in dry weather. We now have $150 million that we think will service a minimum of 10,000 homes in the city of Detroit to get them reconnected to our system. There's another two projects that we have engineered and designed and are shovel ready. One in Brightmoor and the other one did we pick? Yeah, Chicago North Stormwater. So we picked two other projects that fit the guidelines of what everyone is looking for in terms of building out green infrastructure and making our system more resilient. So we're sure that those projects will also get through this process. And again, Mr. Smalley will take the lead on all of these projects. And I have no doubt that when we start meeting with the city council in the next couple of weeks, that DWSD is not going to have a problem getting these projects through city council. The 200 million will be spent at DWSD. There'll be another 100 million that will be spent at housing to create capacity for our low-income housing stock. And then the other 46 million, the other departments in city government will identify projects and try to get them through. But again, DWSD is going to get the lion's share of this money, and it will do so much good. Now, I know that when I go in front of city council, there's going to be a lot of public comment that says homeowners should get the money. That cannot happen. This money has to be spent on projects. We cannot get bogged down on each individual household's qualifications, meeting the guidelines. And so we're prepared for that. And I'm sure Detroiters will understand that this money is being put to good use. Sam, you got any addition to this project before you get into the metrics? Okay.
Yes. Enforcement of the question. So, know that city council will have commentary based on what they consider to be their right to help distribute this money. But you're saying you will make it very clear to them how this money has to be spent and by whom?
It will be clear. Every council district will get work done in their for their constituents in that specific district. The Brightmoor project, so Councilmember Tate is getting a larger share because he's getting a large, almost $50 million project done in his district is getting. But I have no doubt that, and I've also talked to my colleagues in city government, and they all agree that DWSD should run the procurement process for these contracts, that they should not go through the city's procurement process and only go to city council if in fact we exceed our threshold. So it will be this board that will review the contracts, and it goes without saying that we're going to have a very thorough bidding process and try to get the price down as low as possible so that we can be efficient and get as many homes done as possible. But it'll be this board that will see those contracts, approve those contracts, and only go to city council if in fact we exceed our threshold.
Thank you.
Smalley, Deputy Director. I will add just a couple things. Both the Brightmoor project and the West Chicago North project do two key things. They slow the stormwater down and they remove it from the system, reserving that capacity for our customers' use. The other alley project, one of the other key elements to reducing flooding throughout the city is make sure that the originally installed capacity is available for service. And with these private connections that are either falling off the main or completely blocked with roots, this will restore that capacity and allow that water to get into our system and not into their basement, provided there's no defects further onto their property. This proposal is focusing on the alleys, the sinkholes, to give our customers a fighting chance of not having water in basement. And as Gary mentioned, we have thousands that we've been sending customers fix-it letters with pictures of that defect. So we have very good data and we'll be able to move very quickly with that program. Okay, the director's report. Hydrants, as of the end of December, we had 446 inoperable hydrants. That's less than 1.5%. The fire department is right in the middle of their inspections right now, which is why that number is a little higher. Next, please.
That one, please. So are they being painted at the same time or at a different time?
I know that we had the painting going on. I'm not sure if they're still painting with this inclement cold weather, but we can certainly find out and get back to you. Yes.
Thank you.
With colder temperatures, we see additional leaking water services and water main breaks, but the closeness of those two lines means that we're resolving the vast majority within 4 days, which is our service level agreement. Next slide, please. Again, water main breaks are increasing, especially with these frigid temperatures. When the temperature of the Detroit River water hits 36 degrees, that's when we get into our Super Bowl / playoffs here at DWSD. We have 10 crews, both contractor and DWSD crews. Our sewer crews are now transitioning over to help with the water main breaks. So it's an all hands on deck approach to keeping the number of breaks down. And we are salting known leak locations. If there's a location that appears to need salting, please call 267-8000. Let us know. We'll get it on the schedule. Next, please. Sewer cleaning. We've heard some commentary about DWSD's sewer cleaning efforts, but we were able to clean nearly 8,000 catch basins, which is a significant increase over 2022. And the combination of all of the sludge that we removed from catch basins and from the 800 miles or 600 miles of sewer main, we have taken 2 landfills that has been weighed and manifested nearly 5,000 tons of sludge from the catch basins and sewers in 2024 exclusively. Next slide, please. Again, over 600 miles of sewer cleaned by our teams, our men and women out there working on the Vectors. Now, we're not cleaning sewers right now because those trucks require water, and with these frigid temperatures, they would freeze. So we can only do emergency response type work right now with that equipment. Next, please. Operations, the manager, Charlotta Flake, continues to make significant improvements with that division. I'm not going to read all of this, but what I will say is that the number of successful evolutions is starting to far exceed the number of unsuccessful ones. For a long time, we struggled with about a 50% success rate. Working in conjunction with customer service and with our meter operations teams, we've been able to get that to nearly 75% success rate. And progress continues. The majority of our failures tend to deal with either no access or plumbing issues, or that the stop box may not be accessible and maintenance and repair needs to come out and do an excavation, or there may be some health and safety reasons why we're not able to complete that evolution at that time. We are continuing to provide plumbing services, minor plumbing services at the meter to help some of our customers get this work done on the first visit. Real estate reads, the team continues to make a lot of progress trying to work with our customers. Somebody has to be there in order for us to do a real estate read, and that's the proximate cause for the backup of real estate reads within meter ops. I think we can stop there. If there's any questions, happy to address.
Does that complete the report? Okay. There are a couple things that were part of the report in the meeting book. Any questions about any of those that weren't specifically addressed? I'm looking at the success on the investigations. Nicely done. All right. Next, we have GDR funding announcement.
Yeah, Brian, can we show those slides of the, yeah, you want to walk through them, Sam?
So Detroit has 1,800 miles of sewers in the alleys. And again, the typical configuration for Detroit is that the sanitary lines are in the alleys and the storm drains are typically in the street. Those two different systems combine into what's known as a combined sewer system, meaning that when it rains, both what you flush down the toilet will meet with what rain fell on the road or sidewalk going into a combined system. Next slide. Our system is essentially 100 years old. And if our system's 100 years old, the private laterals connecting to our system are also nearly 100 years old. It's a very robust system that is held up remarkably well, but it does require a significant amount of maintenance. And we're doing a significant amount of cleaning, inspection, and assessment to keep it very functional. Next slide. However, with these private laterals detaching from the sewer main, when there's an unintended path for stormwater to find its way into a sewer system, a sinkhole can develop because every drop of rain will take a minute particle of soil with it that adds up over time, leading to a collapse. There's a significant number of these, and while they are, per the Detroit City Code, a private problem, not many of our customers have the resources to make these types of repairs. And, you know, a lot of these alley sewers are 12, 15 feet deep. It can be a very dangerous evolution. We have contractors who are very familiar with how to do this efficiently, effectively, and safely. Next.
Customers who have foliage, trees that are in the way of work that has to be done, how is that handled?
So this work that we're proposing as part of this HUD grant-funded project will be exclusively within the right-of-way or the alleys. We're not planning on going onto private property. If we see defects on the private lateral beyond the public right-of-way, we will inform the customer in writing with videographic proof that they have something that they need to address on their side. But this will significantly reduce the number of water and basement complaints, as Gary mentioned, even in dry weather.
Who have trees or whatever in their alleys will be informed that they must take care of that before you can do your work?
Again, typically the trees are on private property. If there's some foliage in the alley itself, we may be able to address that. Again, we'll probably have to do some what's known as clearing and grubbing to access the alley with construction equipment, and that should help the situation.
Thank you.
It's not unusual on other work that we're doing to have a tree in the way. And the first call is to the city's GSD department to see if they have a crew available to take the tree down so that we can make the repair. And then you have authorized a contract that I have with a tree removal company to move the tree out of the way. It's normally done on an emergency basis when we have to make a repair and the tree is impeding the progress of the repair. But we take care of it.
So these are some of the gory pictures. Before we clean a sewer line, we will often see what's going on. And you can see that the clay pipe is actually in pretty good shape, but roots have found its way both through some open joints and through some private lateral intrusions. All of that will take up capacity in a storm. When a storm hits and that pipe is full, maybe half full or 3/4 full, it'll slow the water down. So a lot of this effort is restoring the capacity in the sewer system. Next slide. Now, this root intrusion ball is coming directly out of a customer's lateral. So it is highly unlikely that that customer's flow is able to make its way smartly into our sewer. That's the type of thing that when we see it, we take a picture, we send a letter to that customer, letting them know that they have an issue that needs to be addressed. Hopefully their plumber can address it. This is the first time, and I've been working here since 2007, that we've been able to make headway on this type of issue, which is the failing private lateral connections to our sewer main. So very excited that we're going to be able to make progress on this issue. Next slide. And as we know, all of these things can add up to water in basements. We feel the pain every time this happens. We want to help our customers. We're not allowed to use rate dollars for these repairs. So this is the first time that we've been able to acquire grant funding to help our customers with this issue. If there's any additional question? So as I mentioned, when we televise and inspect our sewer system, this is the level of density of failing private lateral connections that we've seen. And whether it's on the east side in Cornerstone, west side, North Rosedale Park, or in the center of the city at North End, that's the level of density of failing private connections that we see throughout the sewer system. We have additional neighborhoods where engineering has done their comprehensive inspection and assessment. So we have an abundance of data and places where we can do the most good efficiently and effectively. Next slide, please. Okay. That's the end of our presentation, but happy to answer any questions.
Yes.
Comment. I'm really excited about this for helping our customers out directly. I mean, sewer backups and floods in basements, that's just the most horrible thing that happens to our customers. And so I'm just so grateful that we're going to have $200 million to spend on this issue.
We think that we'll be able to help at least 10,000 customers with this program.
To echo what Commissioner Forte said, my concern is for those customers who do not have the means, financial means, to clear their own, the problems in their sewers. How is that going to be handled for those who just don't have the financial ability to do it? We know plumbers can be extremely costly.
Yes, I mean, this isn't going to address everything across the city, but it will address the proximate cause or the majority cause for most of our customers. The problem is in the alley, the 12, 15 foot deep, that's the expensive one. We can do it much more efficiently and effectively as part of a large project. We will let them know what we see, which may help their drain cleaner or plumber be able to give them a more refined or a smarter estimate.
I share your concern, and I raised the issue with the mayor and his staff just today. Because I want everybody to be clear what's going to happen here. We're going to put a camera in that sewer, identify that the customer's lateral, and we're going to also camera that he'll be able to put into the customer's sewer and go as far as we can to make sure that their sewer line is intact. Because you know what's going to happen once I reconnect the lateral sewer line. If they do have a basement backup, they're going to blame DWSD. And so we're going to send them a letter that says, you have two problems. One problem, your line is disconnected from the sewer, and we're going to fix that. But you still have a secondary problem in that your line is compromised further into your backyard or near your home. And that's your responsibility to find other grant dollars or funding sources to take care of it, because we cannot legally use these dollars on an individual private home. We have to use it on our asset, which is the sewer. And because their line is connected to our sewer, we're able to do that, but we cannot use the money. If I were to replace the complete line, we'd have to make sure they income qualified, they'd have to be in the right flood-prone area. There would be so many requirements that we would never be able to move quickly. And again, we got a new administration coming in, and we want to be able to spend this money and go as fast as possible so that it doesn't get encumbered by the new administration.
What would that repair cost?
Sorry again,
What would that repair cost?
$50,000 for the reconnection is what we're estimating. $150 million would be 10,000 lines. I know that my team does an excellent job of negotiating bids and trying to get the price down. But right now, we're gonna err on the side of $15,000 and hope to be able to get bids in that will push the price down.
If I may continue, what, for the customers who have a financial obligation to do their part, are there funds available to them? Because it isn't always a reasonable cost.
We'll see how, we're getting 200 million of the 346. There is 100 million that's going into a pot for low-income housing. We'll see how that gets distributed. That's being handled by the city's housing department, not by DWSD, but I'm not hopeful that there'll be grants available, but we certainly, we'll try to help people find other grants, low-income grants that can.
Income and.
One thing
Yes.
that is that we have the Community Development Block Grant, Disaster Recovery Grant project in play right now. So if a customer is income qualified, please go to HRD's website. They have information on private sewer repair program. If you're income qualified, they will come to your house. They will disconnect your downspouts, get them out of the sewer system to help reduce flooding. They will televise your private sewer lateral, and they will make any repairs from the outside of the building all the way to the alley. So there's a program in place right now that does exactly that for those that are income qualified. And we focused on the first 11 or 22 neighborhoods that were most flood prone. But that's very close to be going citywide. And HRD could certainly use all the applications that they could get their hands on right away.
Commissioner Forte.
Just in terms of the picture that we saw with the customers, line, how much would a repair of that nature cost?
About 15,000 for the connection at the sewer, but it could be another 10,000 if they had to replace the whole line, depending on how long the run is, how deep it is, concrete that may be, a driveway, other things, restoration.
Portion would be the $10,000, yeah. And another question, when will this begin? How soon?
So the city of Detroit has to develop an action plan within 60 days. The mayor, I think, wants it quicker. So as soon as we develop that action plan, we will submit it to HUD. They have, I think, 45 days to review that action plan. If they approve that action, and by the way, the city of Detroit, when we develop our action plan, there'll be a 30-day public comment period. Then we give it to HUD. HUD has 45 days to review that plan. And then once that plan is approved by HUD, then it goes before council for the grant agreement to be executed. So within all of those timeframes, we will have our contract packages ready to go. So as soon as we get those grant agreements signed, we'll be coming before you that we can continue and award those contracts.
And one other question. The customer's portion of repair, if there were tree limbs or whatever, getting to the main, is this one of the programs that's covered through the insurances that are offered?
If there are, through the AWR or OneSource, if there are blockages, yes, it is covered. However, they do have an exclusion of the actual tap or connection to public sewer mains. So they do not cover this, but they will cover anything further towards the house.
And I guess, you know, my biggest concern is that these lines are 70 to 90 years old. And to expect that there wasn't a life expectancy when they were put in of maybe 50 years, they've already outlived the useful life.
Recognize that. I mean, that's something that the industry recognizes or the department might recognize.
I was chuckling only because 2 days ago, my basement flooded. So, and it was sewage. And so when Commissioner Forte was outlining how, you know, how stressing that can be.
Current house about 4 years ago and inspected the sewer line before we closed. And it's just money we're very well spent. What is best practices? It's been 4 years. Should I have it inspected again?
I would certainly have it cleaned every 2 years. And when they clean it, put a camera in it and do the inspection. It's $100 approximately. I know because I just did it, but some people say you should clean it out every year, but I'd say at least every 2 years, clean it, have the plumber camera the line, and then let you know if there's any defects that you can have addressed. Yeah.
Questions or comments? Mr. Smalley, anything else? Then let's move to item 12, comments by commissioners. Do any of the commissioners have any comments they'd like to make? One thing about this board is nobody's bashful about making comments during the course of the meeting.
Many of our federal legislators about what they're doing to help us out. To help us out.
We're certainly, we have calls into them. We know that the new Congress Senator, not Congress, Slockins, I talked to her chief of staff just a couple of days ago, and although she's going to be working on agricultural committees, she's very interested in water utility work that we've done in the past and what she can do to help in the future. What's a little distressing is, you know, I'm on committees with EPA, and we got notified yesterday that President Biden put the new lead and copper rule in place with more stringent, more teeth to it. He did it in October of last year, and already the new EPA administration has found a way to rescind the new revised, improved lead and copper rule that the former administration, there was a discrepancy between calendar days and work days. And if it hasn't been 60 days of work days, and it has not because of Christmas and Thanksgiving, then the new administration can just pull the bills and act like they never happened, which means we'll have to go back to adhering to the state's lead and copper rule, which I'm just giving you an example of what's already taking place, and he hasn't even taken office yet, that provisions are being made to roll back programs. And so that's why it's so important for this not to get a lot of controversy with the Detroit City Council, to just get through the process without making a lot of waves. We're talking about bipartisan flood resilient work. Both Republicans and Democrats are concerned about that. So if we can just get these programs through as quickly and as smoothly as possible and get the contracts in place and get people working, the better off we're going to be. Because my biggest fear is if you just simply tell the new HUD director not to send the check, what recourse do we have? So let's get these contracts through. Let's get this work started. We have shovel-ready projects. The rest of the city, quite frankly, is still working to develop a housing strategy. We could start this spring as soon as the weather breaks if we get to go ahead. And so that's my goal, is to let's get these through as quickly, as smoothly. But if we start arguing at the table, the city council with others, because they want money used for other projects, this probably won't see the light of day. So let's get our water projects through and get people working so that you can't take it back if we've already done the work.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments by commissioners? Comments by the chair, I have none. Are there any other matters to come before the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn is in order. Commissioner Kinlock, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.